Welcome. I'm Monmouth County Commissioner Director Tom Arnone, and I am joined with
County Clerk Christine Hanlon.
And welcome to Monmouth Talking 250 podcast.
Yes.
Christine,
Yep,
this is great, isn't it? It's so much fun.
Yep, so much fun. And you and I are co-chairs of the MonmouthNJ 250 committee, our committee to celebrate.
We've been having a blast.
America's big birthday. And we've been doing some podcasts to, give people the flavor of what's going on here in Monmouth County, and also to talk about our really important history that we have here.
Yeah, which is vital. And I think that's why, and you're so passionate about it with your archives department and going through the whole process there. But, we talk about trying to get everybody involved, but more importantly, it's all about one thing, history.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's so important that people know all the different aspects of our history.
Which is a lot.
Yes, I know, because we go back so many years to, I think, 1683, maybe. I always make sure I get that right, 1683. And we have some really interesting Revolutionary War history. And, telling that tale, explaining to people why our history is so important is one of the reasons why we have two special guests here with us today.
We certainly do. This is going to be fun.
Yes. We have Claire Garland, who is president of the Sandhill Indian Society in Lincroft, and also a member of our MonmouthNJ 250 Advisory Board, because we have an advisory board. We want to make sure we get all our history, historical information correct. And Claire has served on our advisory board, so welcome, Claire.
Thank you.
And we're also joined by Rick Geffken, who is a local author and historian. And he recently wrote a book, congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you.
New Jersey's Revolutionary Rivalry, The Untold Story of Colonel Ty and Captain Huddy. And we'll be talking about that a little bit today, too. So welcome, Rick.
Thank you.
This is fun. This is going to be so much fun because I have to say, just on a personal note there, that why this process has started, I personally feel like I went to history class because I've learned so much stuff about Monmouth County, which is so obviously so special to me, that I've learned some history there that I didn't even know about, and I'm really looking forward to continuing the rest of the year and beyond. They're learning more stuff, but it wouldn't happen without people like yourself here joining us. So let it go. Give us some history.
Yeah. Well, I just want to take one moment because
Sure.
we're talking about history, right? And, unfortunately, we had a very big loss recently in the history community, but really impacting the Monmouth County community at large. And that was the recent passing of our good friend, Randy Gabriellen, who is the Monmouth historian. And, Randy gave so much to Monmouth County for so many years, really dedicating his life to preserving Monmouth County's history and writing about us and educating all of us. So, Rick and Claire, I know you knew Randy very, very well, and as friends, I offer, our sympathies.
And condolences.
And I know you have some, really fond, feelings about Randy. It's very sad for all of us.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up at the beginning of this. Randy, I consider a mentor. I met him many, many years ago. He was always open to any inquiry I had. We had some pretty good debates about points of history. But a man who had written, I think, 30-plus books certainly contributed a lot to our county, and he'll be dearly missed.
Yes.
And I met Randy probably 25 years ago or more when he was writing a book about Tinton Falls, where my family had property that goes back to 1780 in the New Jersey tax records. So I've always been curious about the property, how they got it, how they held on to it for a couple hundred years, and then realizing that there was a history there of indigenous people in Monmouth County. I became more and more interested. We started collaborating on this Tinton Falls, one of the Image of America books. And even the name Tinton came from Tintern, which was part of England, and there was an abbey there. And I got Randy to put a picture of the abbey in his book, right in the front. The king, whoever he was, Henry, had taken off the roof of the abbey and the windows out. And I think that happened to about 800 buildings, religious buildings in England. But the walls are still there. But that's where our name Tinton comes from.
That's an amazing
And then over
story.
the years, he's always sent me things that he's found in his research, anything that pertained to indigenous people here in Monmouth County or the family, and I've always appreciated that. And just recently with this menacing marker project that we've got going, he gave us a huge map of Monmouth County that we were able to mark out the menacing trail across. And I take it with me when I go out to speak. So he was just always present. I saw him at the Archives Day, and he kissed me and he thanked me for listing him in the contributors on the program. And I said, well, how could I not list you, giving us that, which nobody else had. I mean, you can't even find paper maps anymore. That's like a thing of the past. Yes. But he had the perfect map for us, and it was just wonderful to see him that last time.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you how generous he was. At Archives Day again, a few weeks ago, his new book about Revolutionary War sites in Monmouth County, he very generously said, look, let's swap books. And that was Randy. And, we had didn't know it at the time, clearly, a very short but great conversation, as we always did.
Yeah,
so thanks for bringing him up.
Yeah, I'm so glad he was able to publish his book, that connected to America's 250th birthday.
Ironically, it's a capstone to his career.
It is like a capstone. Yeah. And, when you go through, in this process that, I've been trying to learn about Monmouth County's history, you look at those Images of America books, and he wrote so many of those, and it's like every book I open, oh, Randy wrote this one. Like, I didn't realize that. It's just really special, and
it's a big loss. It's a big loss. For just the kind person that he was, and then the loss of knowledge that he brought to everybody that he gave. I mean, and I didn't know him as well, obviously, as the three of you there, but I used to see him at, obviously, historical events, Archives Days or stuff like that, and he was such a gentleman there, and it was shocking when I heard that, when you called me and let me know there.
And you know what? We will all remember him, and thank goodness we have his books and his publications so that we can continue to learn from him as the days go on. But you know what? We're so fortunate in Monmouth County to have so many historians that care. We have a really strong history community, and that's why we're so glad to have you both with us today. So let's talk a little bit about if we can connect to the Revolutionary War, our Native American history. And Rick, I know you have a lot to say about Colonel Ty, and so let's talk about that. Why don't we start with Claire?
Thank you. A few years ago, I was I'm kind of connected with the New Jersey Commission of American Indian Affairs as a resource person, and somehow I ended up as a liaison to New Jersey Historical Commission. So I ended up on the steering committee for the 250th several years ago, and we spent months going through history and laying out and organizing and preparing before it even hit the rest of the state. And then Westfield Historical Society asked me to do some research for them a couple of years ago. And I did, and they wanted the indigenous history of that area of Westfield, which used to be part of Elizabethtown, one of the early settlements. And so that's where I really learned a lot more about indigenous history in the state of New Jersey by working for them. And of course it made me more interested in Monmouth County and what records we had here. And the more I researched and wrote and built this paper for them, I ended up having a ton of material. So that's how I got involved in it, and it's an honor to serve with Monmouth, New Jersey 250th and Middletown.
Yeah,
they're very busy.
They are very busy because they're very active too.
Yeah.
I commend Mayor Perry. They really have taken the forefront.
Very supportive. And Matawan and Asbury Park.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and in Matawan we just had the the
Menacing
Menacing
Trail
Trail Marker
Marker.
ceremony.
Right.
Why don't you tell us what that was?
My friend Mark Gotworth and his friends at AT&T had started marking the Menacing Trail from Hartshorn Park at Clay Pit, which is county park, all the way across Monmouth County, comes across Kings Highway, goes up Holland Road, goes through Homedale by Homedale Park, cuts across Van Brackle, which we have a new marker now we're trying to install for Native American Heritage Month, and then goes up into Matawan, cuts across Mill Road, goes over to Fresno Park, where another county
Yes.
park. We've got
Yep,
another
versus-
marker.
Yeah.
Hoping to install that this spring or summer, and then leaves Monmouth County. So that was the project of this AT&T Intertribal Council group. And I saw it in the paper, and I called Mark to talk about it. And he told me they were trying to continue with this, but they ran out of money. So New Jersey Commission, Historical Commission, had opened up proposals for markers. So I said, well, why don't we apply? So we did. And their specifics were kind of not lining up the way that would work out for us. So someone had the idea of contacting the Pomeroy Foundation,
Yeah.
and they were very supportive. Did the paperwork starting in January with them, and they approved the marker in April, and then said they don't give out second markers the same, and then they gave us 2 more markers exactly the same. So
Yeah.
they've
the
been very
marker's
supportive.
beautiful.
Yeah,
And
everybody
just for those who may not know, the Menacing Trail is a trail that our Native American ancestors used, right? Traverse New Jersey to Delaware? Where did they
it
go?
goes
Delaware Bay?
up across several counties, crosses New Jersey, goes up 206, goes up 287. Well, most of it's all paved over now, so that's why people don't even know they're on the
really?
Menacing
Okay.
Trail.
Yeah.
And then cuts over to Minnesink Island in the Delaware River, and then continues up to Albany and Canada, out to the Great Lakes. I mean, a whole network of paths and trails that connected this country, that the settlers just widened for their wagons and horses and stagecoaches and paved and kept
Now
going.
asphalt.
No asphalt.
And I mean,
Now,
even,
right, we
even
have
the
that,
our New Jersey Transit is laid out on a trail that goes to
Really?
New York. So when you get on the train, you're really on a trail. 537 is a Burlington trail. So the trails were there, and people. We just thought it was important to mark it and let people know that this history of ours goes back thousands of years.
And that's that you just made a very, very big point there, important point, I should say, is the marketing of it. Because if we don't, it's going to get lost. It's going to get forgotten.
And what Claire is talking about is what I've always thought of the importance of Monmouth County in particular. I mean, I'm very biased. I've been here my entire life. But this is a melding. Our culture today in our county and so many historic sites in our county is a melding of Native American heritage, the Dutch when they owned this territory, the English who took over, and then all the waves of immigrants that came afterwards. And I've always believed that Monmouth County has this richness because of our location and our importance to the early history of this country that is central. Not to mention the Revolutionary War,
Yes. I know.
wherein, as I hope folks know, more battles and incidents during that war were fought in New Jersey than any other state. And also Monmouth County, the Battle of Monmouth, George Washington. Troops on both sides of that battle, for instance, were black and white men, Native American men. And so this county, to me, encapsulates America.
Yeah,
And we just have
100%.
wonderful history.
Rich
We
in history.
We really,
Rich in
really
history.
do.
And that's where I ran into the documents of hundreds of Native American soldiers that supported the Americans.
So were the Native Americans on the Patriot side?
Well, it
or they
depended
were on
on-
the Loyalist side?
It depends on where you were.
Okay, interesting.
At first, Washington didn't trust the Native Americans, so he didn't really want them. But as the battles went on and things weren't working out, he enlisted help, and they did come to help him because they thought they would benefit from it in some way. The northern part of New York and some of the northern areas supported the English. Mm. The other areas supported the Americans. Other indigenous groups supported the Spanish. Some groups supported the Dutch. So you had Native Americans more or less divided with these trade alliances that they had. There was a big support for the French coming when Rochambeau came into Rhode Island with 7,000 French troops and 50 ships and, a massive amount of military might to fight the English. A number of the Native American tribes supported them because they felt as though the French had been more favorable to them than the English.
Wow. What Claire is speaking to is, again, emblematic of Monmouth County. People in Monmouth County during the Revolutionary period were torn, and it, in fact, was a civil war. So you had, as Christine noted, you had loyalists.
We talk about this all the time, how divided
living next
people
door,
were.
or had family members who were what we now
Family
call
and
patriots.
friends fighting.
Which at the time they thought of themselves as rebellious because they were. And so people, as always, in times of stress and war, take the side that they think is going to help them the most. So the black people, mostly enslaved in Monmouth County and New Jersey, in fact, all the original 13 colonies, took some sides for the Patriot cause. And because the British had offered escaped slaves their freedom in what the British thought was going to be a couple of months only of conflict, you had men on both sides. And by the way, women too. Okay, now women in those days weren't necessarily fighting, although we could get into Molly Pitcher.
Yeah.
If we
We
had
always talk
4
about
hours
her,
and John Fabiano here, but we don't. And so it was a very mixed time in Monmouth County. It's not the way we may have imagined it when we were grammar school kids.
Right, right.
And that leads to all this richness of stories and heritage and all the things that we all explore. By the way, Christine is a little bit too modest about not knowing much about Monmouth County history, since she and I wrote a book about the historians.
I know.
So thank you for that help too.
Yes.
But if I may just segue to a very important figure in our history, 2 important figures. Joshua Huddy, who was a white man who fought on the rebellious or patriot side, and then a man named originally Titus, who, to a lot of people's surprise, was enslaved to the Corliss family in Rumson, but he wound up in Sandy Hook, escaped from his enslavement, and started to work for the British against the Patriot cause. He becomes known as Colonel Ty, an unofficial title, and it's this fascinating dynamic between 2 people in their own right fighting for their individual freedoms, but on different sides.
Different sides.
Wow.
It's
And I've always
unbelievable.
thought that's, again, emblematic of America when you think about it.
It's so true. And a lot of people don't realize that, Monmouth, we did have a slave population. People walking around today, really don't think about that.
They
that
can't
we
even
did
vision
have
it.
that
They can't even
history.
vision it.
And this particular, conflict between Huddy and Ty is fascinating, and I encourage people to read your book about this situation. And Colonel Ty kind of became the the symbol of the enslaved sort of getting involved in the war.
Thank you for that. He's probably the most famous escaped slave that fought in the Revolution. And part of that reason is he was involved in so many things. For instance, here in Colts Neck, where Joshua Huddy was living, Ty led a group of loyalists, called refugees actually, from Sandy Hook. They besieged Huddy's house, captured him. They were bringing him back. And then there was an incident where the militia shows up at Rumson, a place called Black Point, rescues Huddy, during which I believe Ty drowned when the boats were overturned. But the war was not over yet because that was 1780. And so we had this continual dynamic of neighbors and friends and family fighting each other until the eventual, luckily for us, triumph of George Washington and the Continental and militia troops. And so much of that, as I found out and continue to find out, happened here in Monmouth County.
Wow.
And I just wanted to add one more thing about this period. It wasn't just a war with this period. It was more than just a military effort. It was a chance to reorder society, and there were huge changes that were made in women's lives. It reformed the inheritance laws that had been based on wealth and firstborn, and it removed a lot of things that were unjust as far as the men and women at that time saw things. Women were, for the first time, allowed to get divorced or choose a divorce. Girls were decided that they were worth educating and should go to school. It abolished the entail and the coverture that affected women and inheritance. Women could own property and vote, but not serve on juries. It disestablished the established church of that period. It was a belief that people should rise by genius and education and merit, not because of the family they were born into. So meritocracy became the engine of growth out of this revolution. And it
Claire
changed
just brought up
society.
something really, really important that a lot of people don't know. Thank you for that, Claire. One of our first state constitutions was written such that for about an 11 or 12-year period, women and free black people could vote.
Right,
Then that
right.
changed.
And that
For a
changed.
But you know what's amazing, and Claire, in your discussion there, which was amazing, because it's always that old analogy: things happen for a reason. And where would history be today if that did not happen, to allow these things to evolve,
These ideas,
and
ideals,
to grow, and the
ideas, yeah.
ideals? Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, it was a war, and sometimes we focus on the military part of it a lot, but we forget some of the basic reasons
Yep.
that caused that to happen.
Yes.
It
Well,
was a
change
revolution in society.
in thinking and
yes.
a reordering of society that affected everybody.
This was so
This was-
inspirational.
well, I just feel like I was in history class. I feel like for the year.
How you both sum that up
was
and
amazing.
Really, I have goosebumps.
Me too.
Just having listened to this presentation and our conversation, and you just summed it up so perfectly. So I thank you for being with us today.
Me too. And Christine and myself been doing these other episodes of history with Hanlon and Arnone and having them, and they're so enjoyable, like more fun segments there. But then coming in here and doing a podcast of really, and you so-called call it the meats and potatoes of why we're really doing this, I couldn't agree with you more. It was like goosebumps listening to really the history.
And what I'm particularly excited about, and I know Claire and you two are as well, is the celebration of our 250th year as a country. I'm happy to say and absolutely believe that Monmouth County in New Jersey is leading that. We have so many things. Man that works for you, Ted Maturo, has just done a tremendous job.
Our executive director, Ted, is doing great.
And so when we celebrate these things that we're just kind of glancing at the surface of this next year, people's eyes are going to be opened. So I'm glad you're doing these podcasts to let people know there's more than just Monmouth County today here.
Yes.
So it's exciting.
So thank you
so much. Thank you for joining us. This was such a pleasure.
Oh, it's been fun.
Looking forward to having some fun this year and learning a lot of history.
Well, we
Thank
appreciate
you.
the
Thank you.
invitation. Thank you.
Thank you.